Hello and welcome to the Tech in Church podcast, where we talk to everyday church communicators who use simple tech tools to go from frazzled to focused. I'm Nina Hampton, and I'm here with my co-host, Jeanette Yates. We believe that you should spend less time worrying about technology and more time doing what you love in your ministry and in your personal life.
Welcome to season 3, everyone. Woo! I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. We cannot wait to get started with what we've got in store for this season. In this episode, we'll share some things to look forward to and give you an overview of what our podcast guests, ministry leaders just like you, will be sharing. First up, Nina, we kind of kicked it up a notch this year. Am I right?
We did. So we switched it up. So we are so excited to not only have these episodes be in our typical podcast streaming wherever you listen to podcasts, but also to be on the Text in Church YouTube channel. So you'll be able to actually watch these interviews. And if you've ever wondered why, like in the past when we would say that you can't see our faces, well, this season you can. You can see all of our reactions, all the jaw drops, all the everything. So we're super excited to see all of our guests and watch these interviews and to be able to interact with all of our viewers as well.
Yes. So these episodes are all recorded and then we'll be dropping them, but that means that we can show up in the comments with all of you as you're watching and engaging. So we look forward to doing that. I know that I will be much more well understood when people can see my face, because my face does all kinds of things and probably causes people to laugh that are on the interview with us. And now you'll know why. So anyway, all right, so let's jump in. We've got some great guests this season, and they're bringing their stories, which, will encourage and inspire you and sometimes make your jaw straight drop to the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some good ones out there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so all of our guests share their specific strategies to give you practical tools to create your own inspiring story in your community of how you can use tech to reach your people. So first up, the first interview that we did for this season is Robbey Smith. And man, that interview took me out. Just hearing the story of his church and just kind of all the things that, first of all, he as a pastor did for his people. He was, listening to podcasts, flying people in, doing special trainings, reaching the city. And it was so incredible to be able to, hear and chat with him about everything that God is doing at their church.
One of the things that I really thought was jaw dropping. And so like from the get go, we're dropping jaws, right? But and I'm not going to spoil it. Y'all are going to need to listen to that episode, but he shares a Jesus story that sounds like it could be like a movie. Like this thing happened and it sounds like it could be a movie. One of those like miracle movies is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
This was really great.
Seriously. It's amazing. And so then next up, another person that we talked to was Stuart Smith, which he had all of the sayings, the phrases, the idioms.
Yes.
He blew our mind.
Yes.
He didn't just have the idioms, but he also had like the whys. So he would explain the why behind it. So that's just a little tidbit. But they talked, so Stuart talked about how him and his wife use it for the college ministry that they're actually a part of. They're, part of a nonprofit organization, and they put on these meals for these college students. And it was just so cool to listen about the really creative ways that they've used technology and pivoted to reach these students. Because I know, listen, anybody who's been in college knows I need a meal. Mm-hmm. Please, somebody come and feed me. So it was a great time to hear him just kind of talk about all the ways. And I feel like he had so many, and we talk about this, I feel like this is a recurring theme for this season, but all the trial and error. Yeah. Right. All the different ways that he, that they used this strategy or this piece of tech, or we changed and we did this, there was so much pivoting that he and his ministry did. It was awesome. Yeah.
He shares some really, like you said, really great stories. You're going to walk away feeling like you got a doctorate in, I don't know, whatever, Greek was some kind of mythology. I don't know. He shares all the things. Plus, and I was just talking with him in the Facebook group today, Nina. He was sharing some different things that he was doing. And I told him, I said, you know what? If Text in Church was a video game, you would be the top. You would have the top, you would be the master level,
you'd have
whatever.
The number one ranking.
Yeah. So he utilizes multiple types of tech very well, but he also has some very cool use cases. And then after Stuart, we take a little break and we bring in one of our good friends, Molly Pelic from Church Marketing University. She shares with us something that we felt like not enough churches know about, but they need to. And it is a really unique tech tool. It is Google Ads. And she talks specifically about Google Ads grants.
Yeah, she totally kind of blew the lid off of Google Ads. I thought I knew about the Google Ad and Google Grant program. Turns out I knew nothing. I didn't know anything at all. I was totally misinformed. And I think something that's been so cool, even just for me, as I've learned, and after that conversation with her, I told so many people about that. Me and my husband, we have friends who are pastors, kind of all over the city. And, just in chatting, I'm like, you guys need to do the Google grants and get on Google Ads, because it's seriously such a game changer. And it's really crazy that Google is giving away this money and more churches need to take advantage of it. It's great.
Exactly. So always love talking to any of our friends over at Church Marketing University. But Molly, that is her whole job with them, is to walk churches through how to go through the process. It's not that difficult, but there are some steps that you have to take. And, over there they have a whole program, but she shares all of that with you in her episode that she does with us. Okay. After Molly, we have a longtime Text and Church member, a good friend of mine, even though I've never met him in real life, Zac Minton. I live in Florida. He lives all the way over. He and his family live all the way over in Spokane, Washington, but he is one of my favorite people. And he comes in and shares probably the most unique use case I've heard of Text and Church.
Yeah.
He talks about how they use it as missionaries and to do their missionary work. It is amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And first of all, Zach's just the most genuine guy. Mm-hmm. So just talking to him and listening to, I could listen to him tell me a story all day long. But also just hearing about his, the church that they're serving at, and just the way that they've used Text and Church to really build a community of all of their supporters and their givers. It's just, oh man, he tells some heart-wrenching stories of just how God has used, how God has used the way that he's used technology, not just to let people know what's going on, and oh yeah, we're having this service, but really, hey, I need y'all to pray for me and my family. And just the stories that he shared. And it's just incredible. If you need, to be encouraged, if you need a story about, how God is moving in the hearts of people across country and building bridges between people, regardless of how far away they live from one another, you definitely have to catch that episode. It's great.
Yeah. So, we know that a lot of our podcast audience, y'all use Text and Church, or familiar with Text and Church, but all of these episodes, but especially Zac Minton's, it's gonna touch your heart, whether you're a Text and Church user or not, he has such a powerful testimony in general.
Yeah. Yes.
And he shares a little bit of that in his interview with us. And then just he's a great storyteller. So he's going to pull you in with those stories. It's so, so good and heartwarming and encouraging. Okay. And then we have April Buske. I loved having her on. So April is what has been a Text and Church user for a long time, but she recently joined our team as part of the Talk and Church side. So I know she and I have a similar Text and Church origin story, in the sense that we used Text and Church as church communications people for our churches. And then, basically we were loving on some Text and Church so much that finally the team said, hey, come on over. And so that's one of the things that we share in common. But, you work alongside April a lot. So why don't you tell us what you found particularly helpful about this particular interview?
I just think, April's one of the most passionate people ever.
She got super excited.
She really she did. She was so excited. She was so hyped to just share about Talking Church. Because I think that's what's really cool about our team, and I know that this can sound like a thing that we have to say, but we really don't. Nobody's telling me to say this. It just is what it is. All of us who are on the team are just so passionate about what we do. That's why, like, nobody told us to start this podcast. This was Jeanette and I's idea because we love the church, we love Texan church, and we think that these stories are important. We love the community that we're a part of, and so that is just as true of April. Like, she was so excited to have this conversation. She is a talking church whiz. I'm not. I will be the first to say that. I like it, we rolled out this new product as a company, and it's all there to help church leaders. I understand the whys and everything, but she like understands, like, if you were to take off the back panel of your computer, she knows what she's looking at. Like, that's how in depth she knows all of her, all the things with talking church. But just sharing, like, she's had so many awesome stories that she's been able to be a part of different churches who have started using Talking Church, and just how it's revolutionized, their church's ministry, how it's freed them up, and just really hearing from different churches about like how much this is saving them. And I think this is what's really cool. It's not just saving them time and efficiency, it's saving them money. That's the other part. Like, she talked about like how, she like one member that she was working with really crunched the numbers, and they were able to, like, they freed up enough
for like a whole ministry.
For a whole other ministry by switching to Talking Church. And so, like, and it was just more efficient for them. It worked better for them, all because they replaced their phone system. And so just hearing her talk about that and really get into the heart of the whys of Talking Church, like why this thing exists, how it's helping people, it's the best.
Well, you mentioned that this podcast was really started so that we could invite church and ministry workers to come in here and share their own stories, no matter how small, rural, big, whatever they are. And then with Talking Church, like you mentioned, we are on the Texan church side more than the Talking Church side. So we asked April, because she is so passionate and so involved with the Talking Church side, we said, we know you have some good stories. She told us some, but then she also told us about one of the Talking Church members, who's also a Texan church member, Stephanie Murphy. And that is who we chose to invite onto the podcast for another interview. And I loved hearing from Stephanie, first of all, because she has been serving in communications at her church since my senior in high school was 1 year old. Okay.
Right.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And first of all, we were, in her interview, we congratulate her for sticking with it in that communications role for so long. But she's seen it all, y'all. She's seen it all, and she's very encouraging and inspiring. And the way she talked about the different, ways they opted into various tech tools was so practical, and she's very well spoken as to how they made each decision that they made and why it worked for them. And I really appreciated that about her, the conversation we had with her.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think also just hearing about how it's specifically like affected their church. She talked about how like whenever they came on to using, Texan church, and then eventually, even Talking Church, Iowa, this is where she's located. She's in Cedar Rapids. They had just seen a derecho, which is basically like an inland hurricane. I didn't say this on the podcast, but my in-laws are in Iowa. And so like that, when she said that, I was like, oh, my nephews were in that storm. We remember what, like, it was no joke. It was not a game. And so how she was able to use, all this technology to connect people in their church that were displaced, whose houses had blown down. She shared a little bit about that. So again, just like being able to not just talk about the practicalities of it, because she's got practicalities all day, but also how it's specifically just making an impact, in her church.
Yeah. And also one unique thing that she shared was that their communications team, they actually have a philosophy or like a mission statement for their digital ministry, which of course I think
I thought was genius.
Yeah, genius. Like we all should do that. So
right.
That was a great conversation. And then we are also going to, as usual, be bringing on some podcast faves. Well, Randallin hasn't been on yet, but she will be a fave as soon as we invite her on. But we are bringing back Caleb Miller, our Chief Experience Officer, AKA Customer Experience Guru, Jedi, all those things. He's amazing. And then Randallin Ward is also on our team, and she's basically a Jedi as well on all the things. She knows a ton. She's extremely intelligent, very fun. She's a lot of fun to chat with, and I can't wait to hear from her. Now, you've actually been working behind the scenes with what they're going to talk about. So do you have any little sneak peeks for us yet?
Yeah, so there's a couple things with Caleb, what we're chatting with him about is kind of just getting a little bit of behind the scenes about text, because there is so much that is changing in the texting world. We know that other church systems, church management systems, we've all been running into different obstacles and hurdles because of the changes that are being made. And so we're going to really crack into that. This probably is going to be like the most technical episode. But it's necessary information, because texting is so vital that no matter how you choose to do texting, we want you to know these takeaways so that you can be effective in your communication. And we may or may not be previewing some new text in church features in that episode as well.
See, I did not know this, y'all. You are
giving you the down low on some new releases.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to chat with Randallin about. One thing I have the privilege of, like, if there's one person that I probably work closest with besides Caleb, in my entire time here at Text in Church, it's Randallin. We were hired on the same day. We're like work sisters. And so she is a ninja at all things AI. She uses it all the time. She is a whiz, like, literally. And so we're going to be just kind of picking her brain about that, because if this is a tech tool and it can work for us in the church space and make our lives just a little bit easier, how do we do that? And I promise you, there's nobody on the team who knows the answer to that question better than Randallin. So we're picking her brain on that. And yeah, just getting some practical takeaways. Our team has used AI since really it kind of became a thing, and different ways, and just kind of made our lives easier. And so we're going to be sharing some
we'll be peeling back the curtain on a little bit of how we use it, but then
another peeling back the curtain episode. Yeah, taking the back panel off the computer. That's what we're doing.
That is a wrap on today's season 3 preview show. We'd love to hear which guest you're most excited to hear from. Head to the comments of this video and share your thoughts or questions with us.
And if you want to learn how to use tech tools like Text in Church so that you can spend less time worrying about technology and more time doing what you love in your ministry and your personal life, make sure that you subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode so that you won't miss out on future ones.